Hi Patrick, how are you today?
Hey Adam, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, let's just jump right in. Just to start, I know your parents work in the medical field, so I was just wondering, what does it mean for you with your first major TV role to be with this project that honors their profession in this way? I think the Pitt, one of the big things about the show is how it really honors that field of work. So, yeah.
Yeah, it means a lot, and that was our number one priority from the beginning.
Hmm.
The medical genre is not a new thing. It's a well-trafficked space. But as the child of two emergency workers, I know my parents uh, often complained that they couldn't really watch medical dramas because it felt like TV, and it felt like they did not quite see themselves reflected in it. And so uh, we really set out to make a medical drama for medical workers, all the way down to making sure that the medicine was as accurate and realistic as possible, as well as, not leaning into trying to depict these people as great heroes or great geniuses. These are people doing their job.
Yeah.
This is a blue collar job at the end of the day, and I think that was really important for me, because I grew up in this community, and I saw how hard these people worked and how the toll that it can take on
Hmm.
people that do this for a living. And so it was just an absolute, gift from God or the universe or whatever, that after all these years, this is the story that I get to tell. So
Yeah. Well, you guys succeed so well. It's such a beautiful tribute to that profession. So, job well done there. I know you have an extensive theater background. When I talked to Supriya Ganesh a couple weeks ago, actually, she said the Pit felt like great prep for her theater debut. So I was curious if there was anything in particular you felt like your theater work prepared you for coming into a show like the Pit.
I mean, yeah, and so excited for Supriya.
I know, yeah. I'm really excited for
So
her.
excited. And Issa also just
Yes. Oh, yes.
like the pit crew is out here on these,
Out.
um,
Yeah,
which I think is such a vibe. I'm
I
so
love it.
proud of that. We're all out here doing it. But yeah, I think you do pick up on some stuff. I think on the surface, like you learn how to move fast, but I think most importantly, you learn how to collaborate,
Mm.
in how to dance with others, and that is something that is really a big part of what we do on the pit. It's a very collaborative space. It's a really sort of like non-ego space. We come in and we say there is a job to do here. It's a very complicated job, and as long as we all stay out of our egos and we stay focused on the task at hand, we can do this. But it requires a full buy-in, and it requires a level of uh, uh, willingness to play and a level of humility that I think is something that I experience in the theater frequently.
Yeah,
So I think probably that.
that's amazing. And then I guess on the flip side, was there anything coming into this like that felt really new for you as an actor that you took away?
Yeah, job security.
Okay,
Yeah.
say no more.
No, no, I think there was a lot that felt incredibly new. Like the first week, whenever I walked on the Warner Brothers lot, and you see the stages, you see the
Mhm.
plaques on the side of the stages, like,
Yeah,
this is where they shot, Rebel Without a Cause. And
yeah,
I was having a secret panic attack for about 2 weeks straight whenever we first started out. And so just the size of everything
uh-huh.
was very, very new for me. Um, I think, this is a bit of a cliche answer, but like the idea of the edit,
Yeah. Supriya said the same thing.
the idea of the edit it was something I learned a lot about over the course of a season.
Mm.
Learning, being like, oh, okay, they are going to go to that shot on this moment. And so if I create this little bit of behavior, if I create this little thing, it doesn't matter because it's not going to be in the edit. And
Mhm.
so just like learning the dynamics of the edit was something was new to me, but I think I learned a lot over the course of season one and hope to continue to hone and get better at in
Yeah,
season two.
that's amazing. Yeah, Supriya said the same thing about the edit. I think that's something you don't think about a lot when you're watching
Yeah,
TV. Yeah,
because in on stage, it's
yeah,
all like with any storytelling, it's all about sort of like the slow drip of information to create tension. And so on stage, I know if I drop this little breadcrumb here, if I drop this little hint here, that will that will plant a seed and introduce an idea that may come to fruition, you know, in act three or whatever. But and that is also very, very, very much true in the pit. I'm just not always aware of how that process is happening.
yeah.
So, so I think Scott is amazing at that, at threading that yarn like that. But I learned quite a bit about how he does it and what my role in that process is.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings us nicely into my next question. I think Dr. Langdon is someone who constantly subverted my expectations a lot throughout the series. Every time I feel like I got a feel for him, we'd get like this new layer, this new crumb as to who he was. So I was wondering, as you were crafting him, did you know his arc in totality, or were you given pieces here and there and finding out along the way? And how did that affect the way you processed him?
I knew that the tentpole moments.
Okay.
I knew who I was in episode one because I had the pilot script. I knew what happened in episode 10 when I got
Mhm.
fired, and I knew that I got fired and I knew that I came back.
Okay.
But I did not have any idea how we got from 1 to 10 or what happened after 10. And so so uh it was a bit not flying blind, but I couldn't get too crafty with things, which I think is actually for the better. I think it's for
Yeah.
the best because you can only do what you're doing right now. I can't try to play actor and editor. I can't try to play showrunner. What I can do is I can do this script, and luckily I'm in really great hands,
Yeah.
and the people upstairs will weave it all together in a very masterful way. But yeah, I as far as like the different shades coming out and everything, I think that I was just doing the bit of writing put in front of me, so that's really Scott's work, not mine.
Mm. Well, yeah, I love him as a character. I think he's so fascinating, and the combination of everyone's work just made him like so beautifully realized, I feel like. Um,
He's I love Langdon.
yeah.
It's the dream role I did not know existed, and I think that there is such a multifaceted
Hmm.
person that Scott has created. I'm very very excited to continue to learn about him.
For sure. Going a step further, I feel like specifically with Langdon, the depiction of addiction feels very different than how we're used to seeing it portrayed. I feel like it's handled with a lot of nuance and care and sensitivity. Could you talk maybe a little bit about tackling like that specific piece of Langdon?
Yeah, it was a very big responsibility
Yeah.
that I was really excited to take on. I have a lot of addiction in my life, and so I really wanted to make sure that we told this story as honestly and humanely and compassionately as possible. And I think it was also really important to see that addicts are not just morally bankrupt or inherently weak people. They're often quite ambitious and quite hardworking, quite successful people, and there are many addicts that I know in my life that are kind of the best of us, and struggle, um, often often without us knowing until it's too late. And so I really wanted to show that side of addiction, because so often addiction is depicted as just this sort of like suffering Olympic sort of thing. Not that that isn't also true, but that's often, whenever depicted in film and TV, that's what it becomes. And I was really excited to not go that direction, but to say like, no, it might be somebody right in front of you. It might be somebody
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I feel like throughout the series, there are these key relationships for him, specifically with Robbie, Mel, and even Santos, that kind of are touchstones to understanding him, at least for me. And they reveal like this additional layer of through this lens of mentorship. Did you approach the character differently when he is alone versus sharing these moments with other characters?
Well, is I that's an interesting question. Is Langdon ever alone?
That's a good point. Probably not,
Yeah,
actually.
I
None
don't
of
know.
them are really alone.
I think maybe the only time you see Langdon alone is whenever he's curled up in that corner on the phone, trying
Yeah,
uh, with my kid after losing the little girl to the drowning
yeah,
accident. I think that might be the only alone time we have with him. But yeah, the triangulation of the relationship with Robbie, who is my mentor and my friend, and whom I learn from, and like whose approval I desperately seek, you know. And then two sides of the coin with Santos and Mel, in that you have Santos, who does not have the same respect for authority, or sort of conscious incompetence that Langdon tries to bring in relationship to Robbie. Is like, okay, I know that you know. And Santos does not quite approach Langdon with that same assumption. And so that, leads to a bit of friction, that and, my drug addiction.
that tidbit.
And then you have and then you have Mel, who seems to be a weird and unlikely uh kindred spirit that I think Langdon somehow really identifies with,
Yeah,
which I think is amazing, because I also think Langdon probably has just as much in common with Santos as he does with Mel, but he's willing to see the parts that he has in common with Mel more than so. Yeah, I think it's really really fun, and I think there's a lot more there's a lot more to learn about all that.
oh, for sure, for sure. I'm very excited to learn more. Specifically, I mean, between Robbie and Langdon, because that scene where he's sent home, I feel like that's where everything really comes out in the relationship. It's very complicated for both characters and the audience, honestly. Could you talk about going into that scene with Noah and building that out to what we saw there? It's stunning work.
Yeah, I mean, that was the last scene that I shot in season one. That was my wrap day,
Oh my gosh. Wow.
and at that point, we didn't know if we were going to have a season two.
Mm,
And so it was this incredible moment where it like really was this uh potential goodbye.
mm,
And it was very present in the air. The whole night was it was really special. It was a night I'll literally never forget, because John Wells was directing that episode, and it felt like theater rehearsal. It just felt like kids in the sandbox, just going for it.
yeah.
We were just playing, and just there was enough trust built between all of us that we were able to just go for it. And yeah, as far as where that leaves us, it's a pretty ugly scene. Pretty ugly scene, and some ugly things were said that are going to be very difficult to come back from. But I'm very excited as I now know and can talk about coming back for season two. I know
Yeah.
that I am still alive, and I am very excited to learn about how I get myself out of this.
Yeah. Well, so my final question, like we know Fourth of July weekend and we know Langdon's coming back. We know it's his first day back, I believe I read. What are you most excited to potentially tackle next season? I know you don't know like a lot, so I'm not trying to get spoilers out of you, but what are you most excited to potentially tackle next season, given the tricky spot we leave him in his relationships?
There's a lot. There's a
Yeah.
lot. The list is long. I think I'm very interested in telling a story of someone in early recovery, which is a story you don't see often. You see people in active addiction, and you'll see people well reformed or down the path of reform. But as somebody who has been through early recovery and knows many people that have, it can be a freaky time. And it's a great time, and um, but the early days are a very unique experience. And so I'm very excited to explore that. Um, and I'm very excited to explore what it means to be a young father, and to be a somebody who was once in this workspace as a trusted lieutenant and is now re-entering this workspace, having been good and thoroughly humbled. Um, the what that means, how to exist in this familiar space in an unfamiliar way, I think is going to be a very cool project. And so, yeah, I could go on and on, but I'm very
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited. Yeah, I love the show. I love you on it. I think you're brilliant on it. So yeah, I'm excited for all that too. And I just really appreciate your time today and your thoughtful answers. Like, thank you so much for taking the time and congrats on everything. And congrats on Hamlet too. We didn't talk about that, but I screamed when I saw that. I'm very excited about that for
I'm
you.
through. Mark Taper until July 6th.
There we go. You heard it here first. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and congrats on everything and thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.